Part 119. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1181. Once we encounter a strange incident, we will take action to destroy the strange incident or minimize the damage of the disaster. At the same time, our information on strange events is shared globally, and its purpose is to rationally allocate the resources of the Anomaly Investigation Bureau. Perhaps there is someone in a distant place who has the ability to solve this strange incident. This time, after special screening, we found out about this strange incident in the northern part of the beautiful country. The nature of this strange incident and the human skin mother-in-law are close to 90% similar. So the probability that you can solve it is as high as 70%. Your presence is very special, so in order to ensure your safety, we will also conduct a detailed assessment to ensure maximum benefits. When Lin Yi heard this, he smiled slightly and said, "You are quite thoughtful. Then what kind of reward are you willing to pay for this strange incident? The first thing is what compensation you want, and we will evaluate it based on the conditions you propose. I will pay a little less this time. After all, this is our first cooperation, so this is a discount for you. I want information on ghost stories around the world, whether they happened in the past, are happening now, or have been eliminated." Hearing Lin Yi's words, Zhao Hongxia said directly without thinking, "This is impossible. Any strange incident is extremely dangerous. Not everyone among us is qualified to know a lot of strange stories. We have spent a lot of human life, material resources, and financial resources to obtain the information about every ghost story incident. The consumption of blood and resources is countless. Although you are our partner, it is absolutely impossible to solve a strange story in exchange for all the information. This ghost story is rated D by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau, which is basically the lowest level of ghost story. What we can exchange with you is, at most, 3 pieces of D-level ghost story incident information. More is absolutely impossible." Lin Yi thought for a moment after hearing Zhao Hongxia's words. "Well then, you also need to give me some other information about the phenomenon of ghost talk. For example, some basic information such as ratings and category analysis. As for the specific information on each Kaiden incident, as you said, 3 pieces of D-class Kaiden information will be enough. But there will be an additional 10 million yuan in remuneration. Such a small reward for helping you solve a strange incident should be very cheap compared to the losses it caused." After hearing this, Zhao Hongxia thought for a moment, nodded slowly and said, "Okay." Lin Yi smiled slightly, "Then our first cooperation is settled. When do you leave?" "This afternoon. I have arranged a special plane to go directly to Strandam, a beautiful city in the north of the country." Lin Yi frowned when he heard this. "Are you in such a hurry?" "Of course it's urgent because there have been several accidents there. This strange case is called the hunting of the clown. The information we currently know is that there was a clown in Strandam 100 years ago. Because of some things, something seems to have changed. This clown likes to capture teenagers and young people the most and then kill them. But some people escaped by chance, and from their mouths, we learned the clown's hunting rules. This clown seems to have a lair, which is a maze. The person who is caught must play a hide-and-seek game with the clown. Once caught by the clown, he will be killed on the spot. But if you are lucky enough to escape from the maze, the clown will not continue to chase you. And the targets he arrested were basically young people between the ages of 14 and 20. According to our information, this clown will continue to grow bigger in the maze. Every time it gets bigger, it becomes faster, more powerful, and faster at hunting those who flee. Basically, this clown will appear every 10 years, and each time it will hunt at least 30 to 40 people before it ends. The 10-year period happened to expire a few days ago, and he has appeared again. He has hunted more than 20 people in just a few days. So we must hurry up and get to Strandam tonight. Lin Yi nodded when he heard this. Okay, I'll follow your arrangements. The car is outside. Come with me. Let's go to the airport first. Lin Yi and Zhao Hongzhi left Wanchaiwu. There was an open-top supercar parked outside. After the two got in the car, the supercar quickly left the city center and headed towards the airport in Furong City. About half an hour later, they had driven directly into the airport and parked in front of a private charter plane. After Lin Yi and Zhao Hongzhi got out of the car, Zhao Hongzhi said directly, I will be responsible for leading this operation and introducing various information to you in detail. At the same time, I will contact the personnel of the Abnormal Event Investigation Bureau in the beautiful country of Strandan. Now we are officially leaving. Let's board the plane first. After that, he took Lin Yi onto the plane. There were only two of them and a flight attendant on the plane, and the others were all empty. Because it was a private charter flight, they sat directly in the VIP box of the plane, one on the left and one on the right, each sitting on a luxurious seat. Soon the announcement of preparation for takeoff sounded in the plane. 5 minutes passed in a blink of an eye. Lin Yi looked at the scenery outside the window that was rapidly receding, felt the vibration from the seat, and his face was slightly calm. In fact, this was the first time he had taken a plane in his life. Before the time travel, he was very poor and could not afford to take a plane. After the time travel, he had mastered powerful power and did not need to take a plane. After returning from the time travel, there was no need and opportunity to take a plane. Until today, because I was going to the United States, I took a plane. This journey was not fast. It took at least 5 hours to reach the north of the United States. Along the way was an endless sea of clouds, and the beautiful scenery was far away from this world, as if in heaven. At this time, he was looking at the tablet in his hand, which had records and information analysis of clown hunting incidents over the years, portrait investigations of missing people, etc. There were hundreds of pages of information, all of which were placed in the computer for easy reference. From the information, Lin Yi had a detailed understanding of the whole incident. This clown should have a prototype, a circus member in the north of the United States in the 1920s. This clown is often ridiculed because of his boring performance, mostly by young people, who think he is just a pitiful and incompetent clown, which leads to a lot of ridicule. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1182. The latest chapter of the Wanchaiwu I Created is updated the fastest. One day, amidst the ridicule and bullying of a group of people, the clown suddenly exploded. He pulled out a weapon from nowhere like a madman, killed all those who ridiculed him, and finally rushed into the forest next to Strandam and disappeared from the public's sight. Starting from that year, he seemed to appear every 10 years, and then selected hunters to play hide and seek. So far, 100 years have passed, and this incident has not been solved. Almost every time, 30 to 40 people died. This year, it was his 12th appearance. The total number of casualties has reached more than 400, and it seems that only 5 people can escape his black hands in the end. Most of the key information obtained by the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau came from these 5 survivors. And these 5 survivors also spent their lives in fear. Some people even went to self-destruction in their later years because they could not bear the shadow of the past. Among these contents, he was most concerned about the confessions left by the 5 survivors. The nest seemed to be in a closed underground, full of passages. Those passages were made of many tree roots and soil. The passages were full of corpses, some of which were entangled by branches, some of which were hung on branches, and there were many snakes, insects, rats and ants. It was like a desperate hell. These passages were very large, usually with a diameter of 7 or 8 meters, enough for more than a dozen people to run at the same time. In the process of being hunted, it seemed that every time a person was killed, the clown's body would grow bigger, until finally, his height would grow to the size of the passage. It's not that no one thought of resisting, and some people even attacked the clown when he first appeared. When the clown was the same size as them, his strength far exceeded theirs. In the confession of one of them, they had a strongman who had been exercising since childhood, had a muscular body and infinite strength. Facing a clown who was a circle smaller than him, his attack seemed to be useless. The clown's limbs were directly cut off by the clown's mutant hands, and his head was cut off while screaming. That horrific scene was deeply reflected in the confessor's mind, and eventually led him to the final self-destruction. At this time, Lin Yi also paid attention to one point. All the people caught by the clown lost consciousness the first time they saw him. And all the people who escaped, when they led the police back to the place where they escaped, could not find the mysterious underground maze at all. Everyone appeared in a different place, and the only commonality was that they were all near Strandam. All of this content told Lin Yi a message that this clown was very dangerous. Judging from all the information displayed, this clown has several characteristics. First, after catching someone, he will not kill him immediately. He will seem to fall into a coma when he sees him. Second, at the same size, the clown also has powerful strength, which is not something ordinary people can contend with. Third, as the game progresses, the more people he kills, the taller the clown will be. Fourth, as long as you can escape the maze, you can avoid the clown's continued pursuit, but this fear seems to be rooted in the mind, and ordinary people can't bear it, and will eventually go to self-destruction. In summary, everyone who encounters this clown will eventually die, but one dies slowly and the other dies quickly. Lin Yi quickly analyzed some information about this clown hunting ghost story. He looked at Zhao Hengxia. Have you ever tried to eliminate him? Zhao Hengxia glanced at him and said calmly, someone tried it 20 years ago. They implanted a micro-high explosive bomb in the body. Then they selected an 18-year-old assassin. The Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau at the time, after layers of speculation and various deductions, found the location where the clown appeared and sent the assassin over. The assassin was successfully captured, and the high explosive bomb was successfully detonated, covering the clown in the range of the explosion. In that incident, there was a last survivor who escaped, and from him we confirmed the success of the explosion. But the final result was terrible, and the clown did not suffer any major damage. According to the confession of the escapee, the clown was indeed injured at first, and the body was blown into several sections. But his body quickly refused together and restored its original appearance. This means that the body of the clown cannot be destroyed physically. It conforms to our definition of a strange event. A strange event cannot be destroyed by violence. It is necessary to find its deepest logical chain to truly destroy the existence of a strange event. A terrible thing happened in the next 10 years, which was the clown event 10 years ago. You also saw from the information that the number of deaths reached hundreds of people that time. Our human and rough interference triggered the escalation of the clown's strange event. Once again verified the iron law of strange events we once made. Cannot interfere with the strange event itself physically. Lin Yi nodded when he heard this. He also saw this in the content of the information. For this clown ghost story incident, he could get a lot of information from the data alone, but he didn't see any information that could eliminate the clown. Thinking of this, he turned to look at Zhao Hengxia. Are you sure that every ghost story incident has its own logical chain? We are very sure, because looking back at the past history, all the ghost story worlds that have been eliminated started from the logical chain. The so-called logical chain, I think this ghost story incident will definitely follow one or several rules to operate. We found its core rules and interfered with the normal operation principle of this rule. It will eventually lead to the destruction of the ghost story. Based on all the information we have now, the logical chain should be the root cause of the existence of the ghost story. Lin Yi listened to Zhao Hengxia's explanation and nodded slightly. I understand. Then next, it's time to go and see this mysterious clown in person. The discussion on the plane ended after a while. Time always passes quickly. At 8 o'clock in the evening, the plane slowly descended and landed at an airport. It is now 6 o'clock in the morning in the United States. The sun has just risen in the sky and dawn has arrived. When Zhao Hongxia and Lin Yi got off the plane, a black jeep had already parked below. A white man with blonde hair was standing in front of the iron ladder of the plane door, quietly waiting for them. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1183. He spoke fluent Chinese and smiled at Zhao Hongxia. Captain Zhao Hongxia, we meet again. Zhao Hongxia nodded slightly, glanced at him, and said to Lin Yi, this is Paul Will, the captain of the Abnormal Event Investigation Bureau of Xuanhuan. He is at the same level as me. Basically, all unknown event investigations and outbound processing are presided over by us, the leaders. He is also a God-given. Lin Yi nodded and smiled, hello, Captain Paul Will. Paul Will smiled, I think you are Mr. Lin Yi, I am looking forward to your ability. Lin Yi smiled faintly, he could feel that the man in front of him had a kind of vague vigilance towards him. Zhao Hongxia looked at Paul Will and said, what is the current situation? Let's go to the administration first, the situation is not good. Paul Will's face became serious. Hearing his words, Zhao Hongxia also looked solemn, okay. The three got on the jeep, Paul Will was the driver, and quickly left the airport and disappeared on the road outside. About half an hour later, they stopped at a place that looked like an abandoned factory. After getting off the car, Paul Will took them into the abandoned factory. It looked shabby outside, but after entering, they found that it was decorated with a sense of technology. The ground, ceiling, and walls all had a metal texture, and many staff members were busy inside. Paul Will took the two of them to a conference room. After they sat down, Paul Will turned on a projection. The current situation is quite serious. We have found 40 missing people. Through special technology, we can detect the fluctuations every time the clown appears. We can't stop him, and we dare not stop him. According to past information, he will hunt once for every 10 people he captures. After killing all the prey, he will start selecting again. It should be the 4th batch now, and he only needs one more person, and he can hunt again. Hearing this, Lin Yi nodded slightly, thought about it and said directly, didn't you try to track him? Paul Will shook his head helplessly, completely it's useless. Even if we follow the clown to where he disappeared, and even see where he went. As long as we follow him, we will completely lose his trace. It's as if he entered another time and space. So we have always suspected that the clown's lair is an independent dimension. But we can only suspect it, but we can't find it. This has exceeded our technological capabilities. Among all our God-givens, there is also a lack of God-givens with this kind of spatial characteristics. This has led to us having no way to deal with this clown. Paul Will said here, with a gloomy look on his face. Strangdon is the city he manages, but he can't solve the strange phenomena in the city, which makes him unbearable. There was silence in the conference room. Zhao Hongxia looked at Lin Yi and said, Mr. Lin Yi, what are you going to do next? Lin Yi showed a faint smile on his face, seeing is believing, hearing is false. The 4th batch of hunting, one person is still missing, right? Yes, Paul Will said solemnly. Then the next step is very simple. Find the last person and notify me. I'm going to follow this clown and find his lair. Paul Will didn't say anything after hearing this. He already knew Lin Yi's identity and nodded, okay. The next time is to wait. Paul Will has gone out to arrange everything and monitor the entire Strandam. The Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau will specially make special instruments for these strange events. Detect the location of these strange events, and then they can always rush to the scene of the crime as soon as possible. Time passed slowly for 5 hours, and suddenly Paul Will rushed in. We have found it. Just 10 seconds ago, the clown appeared in a block in Strandam. Let's go there immediately, Lin Yi's eyes flashed with a gleam. The group quickly left the base and got on Paul Will's jeep. He instantly pulled the accelerator to the full and rushed to the road. Lin Yi looked out the window. Strandam was a typical industrial city. There are old factories and old residential areas everywhere, and the whole city seems to have entered its twilight years. Many young people can be seen gathering on the street, especially at night. It is even more chaotic. Garbage can be seen everywhere on the ground. This is a fallen city. However, a considerable number of cities in the beautiful country are like this, and the chaos in civilian neighborhoods is the norm. Lin Yi didn't care too much, just looked at it calmly. About 5 minutes passed, and under Paul Will's cool driving skills, they came to a dimly lit neighborhood. No one can be seen on the streets here, and everyone seems to be hiding in the house. The three got out of the car, and Lin Yi looked at Paul Will and said, "Can you locate his detailed location?" "Okay," Paul Will said, and took out a tablet from his arms. There was a map on the tablet at this time, and a red dot was flashing on it. We used a special device to perform induction analysis, and then transmitted the location to the tablet in my hand, so that real-time monitoring can be carried out. He should be here now. Lin Yi looked at the tablet, and then fell on the middle of the block. There was a very dilapidated wooden house there, probably a 2-story structure. Lin Yi walked forward. "You wait for me here." Zhao Hengxia and Paul Will did not follow him after hearing this, but just watched him walk away. The faces of the two were very calm, and they were looking at Lin Yi's back with expectation. Lin Yi came to the front of the house. He did not go in, but a trace of the light of the true destiny appeared in his eyes. In an instant, the house became clear in his eyes. He saw 3 people in the house, but 2 of the 3 people were lying in the bedroom, seemingly resting. There was also a young man who was sitting at the table concentrating on his homework. He did not notice a figure standing behind him. This figure was wearing a dark red clown costume, a red clown hat, and a very strange clown makeup on his face, which was full of horror. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1184. Especially his hands. The left hand seems to have no palm, but a sharp bone blade. The right hand does not have 5 fingers, but a 3-finger claw, which does not look like a normal person's arm. This figure is very strange, and its essence is the same as that of the human skin grandmother, which is also composed of countless lines. Moreover, Lin Yi also found that there was a black line on the body of the young man in his eyes, connecting to the human figure behind him. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi's heart moved slightly. The second time I observed the same phenomenon. That is to say, these strange events are related to those who know their existence. There is a certain degree of possibility that these people who know the story have attracted these strange events. Is this the beginning of the logical chain? Knowing their existence, they will attract them until the attractor dies. Kailan is looking for the logical essence of the strange events. In this way, it may be easier to eliminate these strange events, such as erasing their legends worldwide. Lin Yi just watched quietly, and did not intend to intervene in the clown's hunting behavior. It is necessary to watch it in detail at least once before we can find out the real flaw of this clown. At this time, things seemed to have changed in the bedroom upstairs. The young man turned his head slowly, and he seemed to sense that there was something behind him. There was doubt on his face. When he saw the clown behind him, he showed great fear on his face. The next moment, he fell directly to the ground. Looking at the young man who fell to the ground, The clown was full of joy. He jumped up and picked up the young man and carried him on his shoulders. Then he jumped out of the window and landed on the ground nimbly. The moment the clown landed, he just saw Lin Yi standing outside the house, but the strange thing was that he didn't care about Lin Yi's existence. But he jumped and went away quickly, and he looked very excited. He was whistling in his mouth. SHH, SHH. The strange whistle echoed in the street, just like the song of hell, making the dark street look more gloomy and terrifying. Seeing this scene, Lin Yi quickly chased after the other party. Not far behind him, Paul Will and Zhao Hongxia saw this scene, looked at each other slightly, and quickly followed. The clown moved forward very quickly, seemingly jumping, but in fact it was like a 100-meter sprint. However, Lin Yi was in perfect shape at this time, and he could reach 10 meters away with one step. Just like shrinking the earth into an inch, he followed closely behind the other party. In his eyes, the light of the true destiny would flash from time to time, observing the clown in front. Finally, after advancing 2 kilometers, the clown had left the urban area of Strangdon and entered a jungle outside. And Lin Yi followed directly in. At this time, the clown stopped at an underground cave in the jungle. He always had a weird smile on his face, and suddenly turned his head to look at Lin Yi behind him. He jumped down slightly and jumped into the cave on the ground. Lin Yi took a step and came directly to the entrance of the cave, with the light of the true destiny flashing in his eyes. Nothing could hide his eyes, he saw below, and there seemed to be a slight distortion. This distortion overlapped with a black cave, which was constantly flickering and seemed to be slowly disappearing. Without any hesitation, Lin Yi jumped down in one step, and the power of the boundless true destiny directly gathered him. The next moment, he felt that he had passed through a layer of twisted barriers, and then he stood in a huge cave. This was an underground passage, surrounded by soil with tree roots. Because of the tree roots, although the underground passage had a diameter of 7 or 8 meters, there was no sign of collapse. This passage was about dozens of meters long, surrounded by pure darkness, only occasionally there would be some weak light shining down from the top. Lin Yi took a few steps to the place where there was light, and looked up at the top. The light of the true destiny flashed in his eyes, and he saw the source of the light in an instant. There was a gap at the top of the passage, which seemed to lead to the ground, where the light came from. The power of the boundless true destiny enveloped himself and took a step out. Lin Yi rushed to the top without any obstacles. After passing through a layer of wonderful barriers, he appeared on the ground of a jungle. It was easy to get out of the place that was suspected to be the clown's lair. He frowned, looked down at the ground, and suddenly froze. Under the ground, there was no passage that existed just now. What's going on? He was puzzled in his mind. The power of the true destiny solution had been running to a level, and he did not see any abnormal space underground. This scene immediately aroused his interest in his heart. It's really interesting. It seems that the space should be a movable type. Once you leave, it won't be so easy to find it again. Thinking of this, he looked around, and there was actually jungle all around, at least dozens of kilometers away from the city. In a short time, he had actually moved away from dozens of kilometers, which was very exaggerated. Thinking of this, he frowned slightly. Let's find a way back first. The radiance of the true fate explanation quickly penetrated the trees in the jungle one after another. Soon he saw the city and quickly determined its location. All the true life has been turned off, and the series of consumption just now has reached the upper limit of 50% of the spiritual waves. He needs to retain his spiritual waves to deal with emergencies that may arise at any time. With his feet shrunk to an inch, he could walk on flat ground in this forest. He quickly walked towards the city, like a phantom, filled with an unfathomable aura. At this time, there were 10 people lying on the ground in a huge underground maze, and they were waking up one after another. These young men and women looked around with fear on their faces, This is the clown's maze. Damn, we got caught by a clown. Everyone, run quickly. You can only leave if you find the right way out. A 16-year-old boy wearing glasses said with a frightened expression. He had long been concerned about the clown's maze incident, which was the biggest urban legend in Strandom. He was very fascinated by this kind of legend and studied these legends from all angles. He knew what was going on the first time he woke up. After hearing the words of the boy with glasses, the others trembled all over, and they also remembered this terrifying urban legend. Then, they dispersed and ran toward the passages. At this moment, a figure suddenly rushed out of a passage. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1185. This is the clown himself. He is very fast and his target is the boy with glasses. The boy with glasses was running now and rushed towards one of the passages. The clown has appeared, run, a shrill scream sounded from behind. The boy with glasses couldn't help but look behind him, and what he saw was a bloodthirsty face, charging towards him with a ferocious expression. Poof! In an instant, the Joker's sharp arm penetrated his chest. The clown raised his arms high and lifted the bespectacled boy up. The bespectacled boy was trembling all over, feeling severe pain. His eyes were dull and full of despair. Countless blood spurted out from his mouth. No. Save me, save me. I don't want to die yet. But no one rescued him, and no one paid attention to him. Everyone rushed into the passages alone. They must leave before the clown launches another pursuit, otherwise they will be the ones who die. A dead Taoist friend is not a dead Taoist, it seems to be the same in any era. A terrifying smile appeared on the clown's face, looking at the desperate boy with glasses with joy on his face. Then, he raised his right hand, and 3 sharp claws, like iron drills, instantly pierced the boy's face. Poof! In an instant, the bespectacled boy's mouth and eyes were directly pierced. The sharp claws penetrated directly from the back of the head, and the boy with glasses twitched violently, and then stopped moving. At this time, the clown's body seemed to have expanded, becoming taller than before. I saw the clown tearing hard with both hands, and the bespectacled boy's body was torn into 2 halves. The clown's face was filled with a bloodthirsty smile, and he turned to look at the other passages, which were filled with escaping prey. He jumped up and rushed out like a cheetah, heading towards one of the passages. It's very fast, just like a real cheetah. He, ha ha ha. Quack quack. Hide and seek, so happy. Weird voices kept sounding throughout the underground maze. Everyone who heard the sound looked horrified. They rushed frantically through the passage, looking for the legendary way out. Legend has it that there is an exit in the underground maze. If you can rush out, you can escape the clown's pursuit. In Strandom, this legend has been circulating for hundreds of years. A beautiful girl, about 18 years old, with fear on her face and tears all over her face. At this time, he was hiding in a recess in the passage. She covered her position with branches, hoping that the clown would not see her. At this time, a strange singing voice came from a distance and was gradually approaching her position. A clown over 2 meters tall slowly walked over from where she was hiding. Come out quickly, I know you are hiding nearby. He. You can't hide. The weird sound was as hoarse as wood and steel rubbing against each other. Listening to it in the ears will make people feel cold all over, causing physical and psychological discomfort. The girl covered her mouth tightly, not daring to breathe at all. Through the gap between the covered branches, I watched the figure of the clown slowly walk by. Her heart was pounding, as if she was suffocating, and she just wanted to breathe a sigh of relief to relieve her fear. Suddenly, the clown who had already walked over suddenly appeared in front of her. A pair of evil eyes and a ferocious face appeared in front of the tree branches. The girl's heart suddenly stopped for a moment, and the fear on her face could no longer be concealed. The clown had already waved his ferocious arms and threw away all the branches blocking the entrance to the hiding place. 3 claws made of sharp nails grabbed the girl's leg and dragged her out like a dead dog. "No, help, help." The girl struggled wildly, and kicked the clown's arm crazily with her other leg. I wanted to kick away the hand that was holding my leg. This girl is 15 or 16 years old, but Westerners usually develop very early. Therefore, the body shape is almost the same as that of an adult, and the strength of the legs is also great. The 2-meter-tall clown, even more powerful, dragged the girl out of the hole where she was hiding like a chicken. The girl struggled wildly, her eyes full of crazy fear, and her golden hair got entangled in many branches during the pulling process. Her hair was constantly being torn off, causing her to wail in pain. "Mom, help me! Help me, someone help me!" The screams here echoed throughout the entire passage. Soon, the clown dragged the girl back to the original position of the cave maze. There is already a body lying on the ground here. At this time, the clown suddenly lifted the girl upside down. His arms were so long that they almost touched the bottom of his calves. Lifting the girl in front of him upside down, he stared at the girl's eyes and face full of fear, revealing a faint and strange smile. He. The clown raised his left hand, and the sharp, knife-like arm was in front of the girl's eyes. Then, he stabbed suddenly, and the sharp blade suddenly penetrated the girl's eyes. A shrill scream sounded. "Ah, it hurts. Mom, Mom, help me." The shrill screams and cries were loud, the clown would not let her go. The more she cried, the more excited the clown was, and he was shaking with joy. The girl was tortured by horror, and wounds kept appearing on her body. Blood quickly flowed all over the ground and gathered on her head under the action of gravity. The long golden hair was dyed bloody, accompanied by the last muffled sound. The girl was directly cut in half by a knife, cut from the middle of the head. Her only eye flashed with boundless fear. She had a bright future, but she died here so easily. No mercy, no sympathy, only pure and cold killing. The clown who solved the girl turned around and walked towards other passages. Today is his hunting feast. No one here wants to escape. He wants to satisfy his desire for killing and vent his anger. Unless the prey is very smart and lucky. At this time, Lin Yi had passed through dozens of kilometers of woods and returned to the border of the city. But this is Xuanhuan, a city in the United States, and he doesn't know the language here. But with a strong will, learning the language is not a difficult thing for him. He walked slowly in the city, not in a hurry, because he knew that the people from the Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau would find him soon. During this process, he carefully observed the city, which is a steel city. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1186. There are many factories on the city limits of Strandom, although most of them are abandoned. Groups of homeless people can be seen on the street. Lin Yi always attracts their attention when he walks in front of them. However, Lin Yi's face was very calm and calm. When facing their gazes, it was as if he didn't see them and didn't care at all. Although they were a little ready to move, they were all observing. But soon they couldn't bear it anymore, and several tall black men came over. There were at least 5 of them, and they surrounded Lin Yi from both sides. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow Diamond Suit. Diamond Suit. Everyone looked at him with arrogant expressions. Yellow-skinned monkey, hand over all the money you have. Lin Yi looked at the group of them and smiled lightly. If you don't want to die, get out of here. Hearing this, several black people became furious instantly. One of them was a fat, obscene man, who was fat and strong and reached 2 meters in height. There was a trace of ferocity on his face. "You piece of shit yellow-skinned monkey, I'll beat you to death." As he spoke, he raised his fist and hit Lin Yi. Lin Yi dodged slightly and arrived directly in front of him, pressing a palm on his chest. As if he had been hit by a heavy artillery piece, the black man flew straight out and landed on the ground 2 meters away. A deep depression appeared in his chest, and the bones were directly broken. The severe pain made him faint on the spot. When the 4 black men next to him saw this scene, their expressions suddenly changed. One of them yelled in horror, "Kung Fu, it's Kung Fu." Upon hearing this, they immediately touched their waists, and the bright gun appeared in Lin Yi's sight. Lin Yi smiled faintly and his figure flickered. Before they saw what happened, they all flew out in all directions. A deep palm print appeared on all their chests. They were all seriously injured and unconscious in mid-air, and the people around who were observing were startled. Everyone looked at Lin Yi in inexplicable horror. Lin Yi didn't care about these bullies. I turned around and passed through this relatively old and abandoned area. He came to a bustling square in the city and saw many shops in operation. Young and fashionable men and women hang out in these places from time to time, and they all look very relaxed. It seems that he was not affected by the clown incident at all. But Lin Yi quickly understood why. In a place like the beautiful country, everyone is very free, and freedom means a lack of unity, and everyone puts their own interests first. The life and death of other people have nothing to do with them. Even if everyone is dead, as long as you are fine, life will go on as usual. He found a random cafe and sat down, looking at the teenagers skateboarding in the square. A faint smile appeared on his face. On the way here, he had learned common spoken English, casually ordered a cup of coffee, and began to wait slowly. Time passed by minute, and in the blink of an eye it was 20 minutes later. A black jeep drove from a distance and stopped in front of the cafe where Lin Yi was working. 2 people stepped down from the top, none other than Paul Weir and Zhao Hongxia. Zhao Hongxia looked solemn and sat down opposite Lin Yi. "Mr. Lin Yi, what happened? Why are you here?" Lin Yi glanced at Zhao Hongxia and did not hide his experience. He said directly, "I used my ability and entered the clown's lair. It is indeed an underground passage extending in all directions. But after I entered, I saw the natural light leaking from the passage, so I wondered if I could leave. Then I discovered that although I could leave the passage, I couldn't go back. It seems like the passages are no longer in their original locations, so my guess is that the Joker's maze seems to be a unique spatial system. Independent of this world, if you want to enter, you can only enter by following him and finding the correct location. Once he leaves, it will be impossible to find his lair. This time I'm following the clown. There are 2 things I'm sure of. First, I can enter his lair, and second, I can leave safely. You can move forward and retreat freely, and then we can start taking the next step." Paul Weir on the side heard Lin Yi's words and said with a serious face, "But what about the 10 citizens who were taken away this time?" Lin Yi glanced at him and smiled lightly. "Does that have anything to do with me? I'm only responsible for solving the weird clown incident, but that doesn't mean I have to save these people. And they are citizens of your country and have nothing to do with me. Isn't it?" When Paul Will heard Lin Yi's words, he was suddenly choked and speechless. What the other party said made sense, but he had nothing to say. It's just that Paul Weir's expression turned cold when he saw Lin Yi, and no longer had any emotions. Lin Yi looked at Zhao Hongxia and said, "Call me the next time he shows up. By the way, give me some money. I want to take a walk around the city." Hearing this, Zhao Hongxia was stunned for a moment, and then looked at Paul Weir helplessly. "Do you have cash? Lend me some money first, and I'll transfer it to you when you get back." Paul Will nodded silently and took out the purse from his arms. He took out about a dozen banknotes from the purse and handed them all to Zhao Hongxia. Zhao Hengxia took the banknotes and put them in front of Lin Yi. There are only so many for now. This is a special communicator, you take it with you. If you need it, contact me directly at any time. As he said, he took out something like a walkie-talkie from his clothes. The operation is very simple, just turn on the switch and talk. The communication range can cover an area of 100 kilometers, which is the black technology of the Abnormal Event Investigation Bureau. Lin Yi smiled, picked up the banknotes and the walkie-talkie, smiled and nodded, okay. He counted the banknotes in his hand, about 1,000 beautiful coins, took out a 10 yuan note and put it on the table, then stood up and walked across the square. He wanted to experience this exotic city well. Looking at the direction where Lin Yi disappeared, Paul Will said solemnly. This man is very cold-blooded. I just tested him and he seems to have no mercy at all. How do you know he didn't answer you like that on purpose? You mean he's pretending? Paul Well frowned. Zhao Hengxia looked indifferent, whether he's pretending or not, he didn't intend to save the 10 people who were captured. It's certain that he has limited mercy. So his risk of losing control has been raised from D to C. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1187. Update the latest chapter of the Wanchai View I created as soon as possible. Then we need to continue to observe all the choices he will make throughout the incident. Send your people to monitor him and collect all his actions and performances as he travels through the city. Following this incident, a second complete assessment will be conducted based on all the information we gathered. This man is the most incredible existence we have encountered since we encountered the strange phenomenon. He is by no means just an ordinary human being. Taiwan Novel Network Rightward arrow. Paul Weir nodded slightly, okay, I will mobilize my strength to arrange this matter. The two sat in the jeep and drove away quickly, while Lin Yi was wandering around leisurely. Soon he discovered the difference between the cities in the beautiful country and those in China. There are no independent communities, either apartments in one building or single-family houses. The people living here are almost black and white, chaos and order. There is a clear difference according to the degree of prosperity. The more black people live in a place, the more poverty there is. The more white people there are, the wealthier they are, and the class differentiation here is very obvious. Moreover, the gun ownership rate is quite high. When he walks on the street and glances casually, he can see people with guns. Although these guys with guns usually hide well, they can't be hidden from his eyes. In the blink of an eye, Lin Yi had been wandering here all day, and soon it was night. Except for those arrogant people, there are actually no people on the street. Lin Yi walked specifically in some alleys, because these places could clearly see the bottom of the city. Only those at the bottom can see clearly what this country is like. And he concluded after observing that the poor people in this country are really hopeless, waiting to die like pigs. They are not even useful for being harvested, but they have subsidies from the government. They eat, drink, sleep, and live a good life. But this is based on wealth and economic taxation. Once the economy fails, it will really be all over. Lin Yi, who was walking in the alley, stopped. Several people appeared in front, and a woman stood there calling for help. Help, help me. It was a white girl, about 20 years old. At this time, he was surrounded by 7 black men, and half of his clothes had been torn off. It looked like she was about to be raped. She saw Lin Yi walking towards her and immediately screamed for help anxiously. Help, help me. When the 3 black men saw Lin Yi, a lewd smile appeared on their faces. Yellow-skinned monkey, just right, this woman is not worthy enough. With that said, 5 of them turned around and walked towards Lin Yi, eagerly looking to surround Lin Yi. 2 black men grabbed the woman and pushed her to the ground. Facing the black people surrounding him, Lin Yi sighed slightly. Why are you people always so stupid? His figure instantly split into 3 after images, one with each palm, all of which were captured on the oncoming Uncle He. The 5 black men flew up directly. 1 lay on the ground, 2 hit the wall, and 3 fell to the ground. They rolled their eyes and fainted. 2 other black men, who were about to engage in some kind of exercise, were startled. The 2 of them quickly climbed up, looked at Lin Yi warily, and then took out the pistol at their waist. They looked at Lin Yi with frightened expressions and pulled the trigger. Bang bang bang. The sound of bullets sounded, and Lin Yi was in front of them in a flash. The trajectories of the 2 men's shots were all caught by him, and they could not really aim at him, so they easily dodged each other's projectiles. With another 2 light palms, the 2 black men flew out and fainted in mid-air. The woman who had half of her clothes torn off and was pushed to the ground now looked at Lin Yi in shock. She struggled to sit up, leaning against the wall with a look of disbelief on her face. At this time, Lin Yi looked at her and said, "Go home quickly. Don't run around at night." At this moment, the woman suddenly realized, then she screamed and ran quickly, rushing out of the alley. Lin Yi shook his head slightly, turned around and was about to move forward. Suddenly, he stopped. His eyes flashed with the brilliance of his true destiny, and he looked behind him. A figure appeared in the dark alley there, and the figure was quickly approaching him. A creepy feeling arose in my heart. Lin Yi immediately flashed, and with the power of Zhenming Wujiang, he directly penetrated the wall next to him and moved 1,000 meters laterally. When he reappeared, he had stopped on a road, and the power of his true destiny slowly stopped. Zhenming Daija was already looking in the direction he came from. He saw a figure in his sight. It was the clown he saw during the day. At this time, the other party stopped where he was just now, his head turning strangely, as if looking for his shadow. Lin Yi immediately realized that the other party came specifically to find him, and narrowed his eyes slightly. If there is a problem, why would he come to me directly? At this time, the satellite in the sky, which had been tracking Lin Yi, suddenly lost sight of him and was replaced by the clown. Conference Hall of the Strong and Abnormal Events Investigation Bureau. Zhao Hengxia and Paul Will looked at the clown on the screen and were both shocked. What's going on? Why did the clown go to him? Zhao Hengxia's face was cold. Paul Will's face was also solemn. It should be that he entered the clown's lair without invitation today and was marked by some kind of power. At this time, in the conference room, in addition to the 2 of them, there were more than a dozen people of different skin colors and races. They are all cutting-edge psychologists and behaviorists. They have been observing Lin Yi's every move through satellites and describing him. Finally, they analyzed and summarized, looking for his weaknesses and strengths. But they didn't expect the picture to suddenly become like this. Lin Yi, who had been locked, disappeared. Then appeared the ferocious clown, the legendary protagonist of the ghost story. Paul Will looked at Zhao Hengxia. What should we do next? Let the satellite lock on the clown. If he can find Lin Yi once, he can find him a second time. Let's continue to observe and see how he will deal with this clown. The entire conference room was silent, and everyone was watching the screen quietly. The clown seemed to feel very strange because there was no trace of Lin Yi. Lin Yi was also observing the clown at this time. He found that the clown seemed to be a little different from the human skin grandmother. The human skin grandmother seemed to have intelligence, but in fact it was completely a mechanical law. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1188. The latest chapter of the Wanchai Wu I Created is updated the fastest. This clown seems to have some thinking characteristics, which means wisdom. This is very interesting. Having wisdom and thinking ability means the possibility of human. Isn't the strange incident not as I thought, a dead object driven by rules, and there are also intelligent types like life. A trace of solemnity flashed in his eyes. If it was as he thought, then this matter would not be so simple. The strange incident may be more dangerous than he thought. In the future, he needs to be more careful when facing such things. Danger without wisdom and danger with wisdom are two completely different levels. He took a deep breath, and a trace of thought and solemnity appeared in his eyes. At this time, the clown seemed to have noticed his position again. He turned his head and looked in the direction of Lin Yi. Lin Yi frowned slightly, and he planned to confront this clown head-on. After all, he still has an ace. If something really happens, the worst thing is to die once. Through the human skin grandmother and the clown ghost story, he found that all the ghost stories may have a flaw. That is, once the target dies once, the two will completely lose contact. However, Lin Yi vaguely realized that this severing of all connections may not only be in line with the law of ghost stories and complete the closure. There is also a part of the reason why the true destiny is immortal. The so-called immortality may be that after a complete death, the true destiny will cut off all connections, and he will reappear in this world in a state of complete isolation from the world. Whether it is danger, luck, or any kind of cause and effect, it will completely dissipate with death. A brand new rebirth, this is the most powerful part of the true destiny. As long as he is not seen again, the person who killed him will not realize or sense that he has come back to life. The hidden things here are very profound, and the power of the true destiny is bottomless. This is also the reason why he dares to challenge the ghost story. At worst, die once and wash away all the cause and effect connections. He can rely on this power to constantly probe and understand the essence of these strange events. Thus, he can find out the most fundamental logical chain of these strange events and cut it off. Just as Lin Yi was thinking, a figure suddenly appeared at the intersection of his street. Lin Yi frowned slightly when he saw this scene, because he had been observing the clown with the true destiny solution just now. The other party disappeared directly in his eyes, and the way of disappearance was that the countless black lines that constituted the clown itself all scattered in an instant. And these lines seemed to have mysterious cross-space capabilities and connections in the dark. When it appeared again, it came directly to the end of Lin Yi's street. These lines converged into the clown again, and a twisted and hideous face was looking at him. After the clown appeared, it laughed strangely. He he he. You are so funny. The clown's strange laughter was accompanied by short words. Lin Yi looked at it calmly. Are you the clown 100 years ago? The clown's steps towards Lin Yi suddenly stopped. The face with the weird smile also turned cold at the same time. He looked at Lin Yi in front of him. Does anyone remember me? I just heard your story roughly. I was ridiculed and laughed at, and then I slaughtered a large number of people overnight, and then disappeared. It was 10 years later that I appeared again. Then I started hunting ordinary young men and women. That's all I know. Then are you interested in telling me? What did you go through? The clown looked at Lin Yi quietly, and suddenly the weird smile on his face rose again. It's a pity, I don't want to. Ah, ha ha ha. The twisted laughter sounded in an instant, and then he suddenly rushed towards Lin Yi. He was very fast, like a cheetah, holding up his weird hands. He jumped 3 meters away. After just a few ups and downs, he arrived in front of Lin Yi, and then a huge weird force enveloped Lin Yi. Lin Yi instantly felt a mysterious black force rushing towards him. The moment this force touched him, it came towards his body, and an instinctive fear rose from his body. He immediately remembered the information he had seen. All people who saw the clown would faint in an instant. Now he finally knew what was going on. The clown had a mysterious power. It could affect the body, causing it to produce boundless fear, and then fall into a coma due to excessive fear. The true destiny perseverance burst out and instantly blocked this force. In the instant collision, Lin Yi felt that his spiritual wave disappeared by January 10th in an instant. He had no time to waste in a quick battle. He slapped his left and right hands at the same time. The left hand was a pure magnetic field, and the right hand was the source of true destiny. Both hands slapped the clown's chest at the same time, and the other party had no reaction at all. All the people he had met before would lose consciousness directly after entering a certain range of him. This was the first time he encountered resistance during hunting. He was greeted by two huge forces. First, there was the magnetic field on the left side of his chest. Although this force was strong, it was only a pure magnetic field of matter and energy. There was almost no substantial damage to the mysterious black lines that made up his body. But there was a huge change on the right side of his chest. At least 10 cubic centimeters of his right chest turned into black rock. The black lines that made up his body could not avoid rockification either. After the blow, Lin Yi retreated suddenly. The boundless power of his true destiny enveloped him, and the next moment, he moved horizontally another 1,000 meters away. Without looking back, he put away all the power of his true destiny, turned around and walked deeper into the city. The ground under his feet shrank into an inch, and one step was 3 meters away. At this time, he ran completely relying on his physical strength. In the original position, the clown stood there stiffly. He looked down at his right chest. There appeared a black stone like a palm print. He raised his right claw, and 3 sharp fingers dug out the palm-shaped rock on his chest. He only saw that he exerted a little force, and the rock was directly crushed, leaving nothing behind. A deep black hole appeared on his chest. It can be seen that the black lines were broken, but these lines were growing wildly. In just a few minutes, all the lines grew and connected together, and the hole was healing rapidly. At this time, a trace of inexplicable fear flashed in the clown's eyes. For the first time, he encountered a force that could really hurt him. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1189. What is it? Why can he hurt me? A trace of fear rose in the clown's consciousness, and his body seemed to have some changes at the same time. Although the changes were very weak, there were some differences. At this time, Lin Yi took out the communicator given to him by Zhao Hongxia. He turned on the switch directly, and a few seconds later, Zhao Hongxia's voice sounded from the other side. Hey, Mr. Lin Yi, do you need any help? You should have seen the battle just now. Send someone to pick me up as soon as possible. And carefully record all the changes of the clown. Zhao Hongxia was silent for a few seconds, and then said, I will send someone to pick you up immediately. I will go to the central square, where we will meet today. Okay. After hanging up the communicator, Lin Yi accelerated and disappeared here. Walking all the way in Strandan today, he could feel a sense of surveillance at any time, and he knew that it was done by Zhao Hongxia and others. At this time, the clown seemed to be shaken because of his position, and he turned around and disappeared on the spot in one step. However, he did not chase Lin Yi again, but completely disappeared. When Lin Yi arrived at the central square, a jeep had already stopped here. Zhao Hongxia and Paul Will had actually arrived. Lin Yi stepped into the car and said coldly, Drive. Don't stop, just circle the whole city. Neither of them refused Lin Yi's request. Paul Will was responsible for driving, and Zhao Hongxia looked at Lin Yi and said, Mr. Lin Yi, what should we do next? Bring up all the footage of me fighting with the clown and leaving at the end. Zhao Hongxia nodded and took out a tablet computer in her hand. After some operation, a video appeared in it. The video was taken by the highest precision satellite, with an accuracy of 5 centimeters. At this time, she handed the tablet computer to Lin Yi, and Lin Yi looked at the video with a very solemn look. He was observing everything that happened during the collision between him and the clown. He saw that the clown did not chase after him after he left, but reached out to dig out the petrified place on his chest. At the same time, he also saw that the petrified position quickly recovered and it seemed that there was no problem. He carefully observed the clown's face. At that time, it no longer had a trace of joy and sly smile, but seemed to reveal a trace of human fear. Finally, it turned around and disappeared. Obviously, the clown was afraid of his power. Lin Yi continued to observe. He repeatedly observed this video, and he was checking whether the clown in the video had any flaws. Paul Will and Zhao Hongxia were watching outside vigilantly. The front, back, and side were all within their observation range. Once the clown appeared again, they would choose to speed up, turn around, and stay away from it at the first time. Lin Yi has become a target. Although the clown is not chasing him for the time being, it is hard to say whether he will catch up. Paul Will drove the car and circled around the entire city of Strandam. After 3 hours, the clown did not appear again. Only then did they breathe a sigh of relief, and Zhao Hongxia looked at Lin Yi. How is it? Any new discoveries? Have you found the logic chain of the clown? Lin Yi had already turned off the tablet in his hand at this time. He looked up at Zhao Hongxia, his eyes narrowed slightly. According to all the information I have so far, the overall image of the clown should be like this. The clown 100 years ago was a man named Lakovic. There is no record of his specific identity. The only thing we know is that he was a clown in a circus and his hometown should be from Bear Country. Then, he was laughed at by countless young people, and some even ridiculed him as a fool. After a circus meeting, he encountered a group of teenagers who were specifically here to bully him. They drove him into the forest and humiliated him in various ways. Then, Lakovic completely exploded in this humiliation. Then the tragedy of that year happened. The dozen or so teenagers who bullied him were all hunted down and killed by him. Judging from the wounds, there are obvious puncture marks from sharp objects and scratches from sharp claws. In other words, he had become a normal person turned into a monster like this. This is the starting point of everything. There must be some reason. After that, he will disappear and reappear every 10 years. After the second appearance, he has the ability to make people comatose. I have just contacted him, and I know where his coma ability comes from. Once you are within 3 meters of him, you will be affected by a certain power in him, and eventually blind your consciousness and fall into a coma. And when I came into contact with this power, I felt something. Zhao Hongxia narrowed her eyes and showed a hint of expectation on her face. What did you feel? Fear, a power that can make consciousness fall into fear, and eventually the intense fear will lead to coma. Because I know some special information, I have an inference. In these 10 years, the clown has undergone some unknown changes. This kind of change is nothing more than internal and external. The first kind is internal. The clown who killed a lot of people has already mutated. In the 10 years since then, more mutations have occurred, and this mysterious power has emerged. The second kind is external. In the past 10 years, the outside world has only had one influence on the clown, and that is his horror legend that has spread throughout Strandam. The horror legend may affect the clown himself. Because of some special information I know, I think the probability of the second kind is very high. You mean, the more people know about the ghost story, the more the ghost story itself will change? Zhao Hongxia said slowly with a hint of shock in her eyes. Lin Yi nodded slightly. There is such a possibility, but whether it is really as I expected requires further evidence. After that, the person who was knocked unconscious will be taken to the underground maze where the clown is. If I guess correctly, that is where the clown first disappeared and hid, leaving all the police helpless. As time goes by, he and the place where he is have become an uncertain time and space. So, without his guidance, you will never be able to enter his lair. Outsiders cannot enter his lair, but people inside can come out, and these are the survivors. The House of Everything I Created. Author, Yinian Luan Tianji. Chapter 1190. Survivors will not be hunted by the clown. Logically speaking, the clown defaults to the survivor surviving. The whole story looks like a hunting game. The clown is the hunter, and the person he catches is the prey. It's a revenge mentality, but it has a glimmer of hope. That's how the whole situation should be. But in the maze, every time the clown kills someone, his size will increase. There should be some kind of change in this. Why did he get bigger? Refer to what I just inferred about the influence of external causes in the first 10 years. I judge that the clown's changes are due to fear. All the people he killed must have been very scared before they died. And this fear will make him grow huge in the maze. Bigness means power means wealth. And in that underground labyrinth, hugeness means threat and the desperation of the prey, which can satisfy his twisted psychology that was once ridiculed and ridiculed. From this, I analyzed something. The existence of clowns is related to fear. Even when the clown first mutated, it might have been triggered by his inner fear. If you use fear as the core and infer all his behaviors, then the entire logical chain will be very smooth. Because of fear, he turned into a monster, and because of the spread of horror stories, a mysterious underground maze was created, giving him the ability to be frightened and dizzy. Because the prey's fear allows him to become more powerful in the maze. Except for the initial fear, all other behaviors are to gain more fear from the outside world. So does that mean he's engaging in these behaviors because he needs a supplement of external fear? Listening to Lin Yi's detailed analysis, information was displayed one by one in front of Paul Weir and Zhao Hongxia. Both of them had an incredible light in their eyes. They had never considered this kind of logical chain, and it seemed to open a new channel for them. Let them see the essence of ghost stories. Zhao Hongxia thought for a while and said, "The logical chain is indeed very smooth, but how should we cut off this logical chain? Let this weird phenomenon eliminate itself." Lin Yi raised the tablet with a smile on his face. "There is a way. I just watched the video carefully a dozen times, and I found a problem. When I injured the clown, he hesitated, so he didn't pursue me. Although he dug out the injured part and healed himself quickly. But I noticed he seemed to have shrunk a little bit in size. Why do you think this is?" Zhao Hongxia reacted instantly, "Fear, because he has fear of you in his heart. And he was affected, so he became smaller. We have a saying, we are as timid as a mouse. The more fearful he is, the weaker he becomes. It doesn't even come after you again, it's all about fear. In other words, we may not be able to destroy him directly, but we can make him fearful in various ways. Ultimately it got to the point where he was self-destructive." In an instant, Zhao Hongxia immediately solved all the logical links. "I see. Mr. Lin Yi, you are really amazing. You have analyzed so many things." When Lin Yi heard this, he smiled lightly and said, "It's just because I look at things more carefully. It doesn't mean anything." Of course, Lin Yi would not tell them that he had the brilliance of the true interpretation of life, and no changes in the clown could escape his analysis. Even through the tablet, most of the information was seen by him. Lin Yi took a deep breath, with a trace of solemnity in his eyes. "But even if we know the logical chain, what we have to do next is to make the clown constantly fear. This is not a simple matter. I need to keep trying, press it from all directions, and see what can keep it frightened. Even make the clown doubt and fear himself. In this way, he will continue to destroy himself." Zhao Hongxia nodded when she heard this. Now she very much agreed with Lin Yi's words. "What should we do next?" "I want to do an experiment, but need it the next time he hunts. You have to tell me as soon as he starts hunting. Arrange a hotel for me now, I need to rest. In the meantime it's best to have someone near me at all times to alert me to clown sightings." Zhao Hongxia nodded when she heard this, Don't worry, I will make arrangements. About half an hour later, Lin Yi was arranged to one of the most luxurious hotels in Strandham. Zhao Hongxia has already moved into the room next to him. If there is any news, Lin Yi will be notified as soon as possible. At this time, Lin Yi was sitting cross-legged on the bed, lost in cultivation, recovering the consumed spiritual waves. In the everything room, Sakuragi Shirley, Absinthe, Vodka, and Lao Wei were all reading books in their respective positions and learning all kinds of knowledge. And Lin Yi's glimmer of consciousness had already arrived here. Shirley Sakuragong looked at Lin Yi. How is the situation outside? Lin Yi shook his head slightly. Is it troublesome to solve the strange talk incident? Now I have a basic understanding of the outside world. I will make all your bodies after a while. You can go out and live. But the outside world has certain risks. You should first understand the power system I deduced that is suitable for the outside world. But no matter how well this system is practiced, it can only be 4 or 5 times stronger than ordinary people. As for supernatural abilities, except for the influence of magnetic fields, they are almost useless. It's just that most physical dangers have no effect on you. The only thing you have to be careful of is strange events. Only the power of true destiny can resist that kind of danger. But you may be able to comprehend the eternal nature. Although these eternal properties are dead and cannot be revived without the power of strange events. But the principles inside will not change. You can build a model of the principles in your own spiritual consciousness. If you can build the prototype of true destiny through these countless eternal properties, you will not be unable to obtain supernatural powers in the future in the outside world. Several people listened silently and accepted the information from Lin Yi at the same time. After all the information was explained, Sakuramiya Shirley and the others began to absorb and digest it quietly.